Hi, welcome to Hoosier Storytellers, a program for and about the people of Frankfort and Clinton County, presented by the Frankfort Community Public Library. What are you saying, Andy? Huh? What's wrong with it? That was an anonymous member of our audience making show suggestions. My name is Mike Clausen. I'm your host. I do whatever Andy Slifer tells me to do. Our program generally runs about an hour, and that includes a question and answer session at the end. So if you're in a big hurry to get home to dinner, don't ask any questions. But if your curiosity triumphs over your hunger, ask away. Joining us today are the folks from Glover's Ice Cream of Frankfort, the last independent ice cream company in the state of Indiana, and a company that's celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Please welcome Steve Glover, Kathy Glover, Tony Del Rio, David Meek, and Shan Sheridan. This is where I sit. I'd like to point out that there are two more partners in this group who aren't on stage with us tonight, Juan and Tony Reyes. Hi, everyone. As a warning, we are being broadcast on YouTube Live right now. And this program will be archived on the library website, so it's good to know that any mistakes, mispronunciations, or awkward moments will not only be seen live, but will live forever in some part of the internet. No pressure. If you guys don't mind, I thought we would start with Steve and Kathy Glover and talk a little bit first about the history of Glover's Ice Cream. But you other guys just chime in at any time if you have something to add. You two ran Glover's Ice Cream from 1971 until quite recently. Steve, thinking back, what is your first memory of Glover's Ice Cream? That's Andy's fault.
Test. All right. So first, I guess, thought of Glover's. It's funny, when my grandfather was down there working, it was pretty much work, and we didn't go down there too much. But I do have one memory when I was pretty young. They were making little cups at that time, which these guys love because that's all they do. And they were filling them, and my dad had this little wooden thing that he was jamming the lids on, and they were just flying out real fast, and my aunt was grabbing them as fast as she could and putting them in the sacks. And so I just remember thinking, wow, that's just crazy fast.
Kathy, I know you worked there for a while, and your first memory of Glover's came along quite a bit later. What was your first impression of Glover's?
I was actually just thinking about bringing my little kids, before I even worked there, bringing them over and looking at the ice cream. And especially Keith, our first one, was so excited to get into the mix. So he's like leaning over there. We've got really cute pictures of him trying to, because he sees milk and he thinks it's milk, and he's so excited. So my memories are mostly of our kids playing in and out of ice cream boxes in the back and ice cream things. So your kids, growing up where there's ice cream around all the time, did they not like ice cream? Oh, they loved ice cream.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
They loved it.
Did they think it was unusual that other people had to pay for it?
Probably.
Yeah.
Although we usually got kind of some of the snacks that were maybe going old, and those are the ones we took home usually, and that's what our kids will say. That's what they remember.
Steve, tell us a little bit about the man who founded Glover's Ice Cream 100 years ago.
Okay, that was my grandfather, Foster Glover, and he was looking at that time for a business. He was living in Waveland, that's where he grew up, and was looking for a business to open, and he had a little experience in ice cream because he was a soda jerk for a while. And you guys might not know that, but that's kind of the person who made all the sundaes and fizzes and floats and parfaits, like a coffee barista today. So he did that for a little bit, and there came a time that there was a business open, an ice cream company came up and saw it and bought it, and then moved his whole family and everything up here. And not exactly then, but during that time period, there were at least 5 companies in Frankfort making ice cream. So when you think about that, we're the last in the state now. And so back then, the competition in all little communities had ice cream creameries, and they would make ice cream and milk and cottage cheese, everything. And so the competition was really tight.
So your grandfather, Foster, was that the building that he started Glover's in?
No, actually the first building that we bought was, you might remember, there was a depot in Frankfort where the Monon is, kind of right behind Schultz's, kind of catty corner around the corner from Glover's, and that's where the ice cream company was. In fact, there would be, trains would go through there, and they would stop, and they would come and get ice cream. Even had stories that he would go in on the train or in the depot and sell ice cream bars to them. But he quickly outgrew that building, and then he built the one that we have now. So that building was originally built probably about 1928, and it was purposed for ice cream, and it's still being used for ice cream in the same way. The big garage that we have on there wasn't there, and in the back of the building, that's where they had little garages where they kept the trucks. But soon those trucks grew bigger and bigger, and we needed more space, so we had to get a bigger garage.
What do you know about the Midway at that time? I mean, I know there were like 2 different trains that came through there. I read the thing about him selling the ice cream sandwiches and stuff. Was that a good location because of the railroad?
I don't really think that was a huge thing. It was just like an added bonus. You know, you had people coming through there. But most of the business was he would go out and try to sell to other places like grocery stores. In fact, at the beginning, because he didn't have much business to start with, he told his drivers after they got done delivering to just drive the trucks around Frankfort. They would just drive all over so that people would say, oh, look at that, there goes a Glover's truck. Boy, they must be pretty busy. But really not at the beginning.
That's when gas was a little cheaper.
Yeah, you didn't have to worry about gas.
Let's see. Your father then inherited the business, I guess, or took over the business from Foster.
Took over, yeah.
When did that happen? And was that always your father's plan, to take over his father's business?
These are tough questions. Yes, it was. He as a kid, he worked there too, as I did too as a small kid. But so he went to school, but he got drafted, had to go to the Korean War for 2 years, and when he came back, then he started in with his dad making ice cream. And my aunt also worked there. So it's always really been a family business. He had, my grandfather had his son and his daughter there working. I had my wife and my 2 kids there working in the summer. And I love these guys. They have their family working, their wives and kids. In fact, their sons really helped me a lot rebuilding this when they were ready to take it over. So it's really had a lot of roots with family in it.
So when your father took over, it was sometime, I guess, in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Did Glover's change from, at that time, when your father took over, from the way his father ran it?
The actual manufacturing stayed pretty much the same. In fact, we're still using the original recipes that Foster had. We get things a lot differently, different containers, but the recipes are the same. But so when my grandfather had it, it was very small, and he pretty much did Frankfort. And you guys won't believe this, but the west end of town was so busy with little mom and pop stores, it would take a whole day to deliver to all of them. And now we could do Frankfort at the end. We could deliver, do it in a half a day, all of Frankfort. But there were so many little mom and pop places over there. So, and then also when my grandfather started it, he was from Waveland. So one of the first places that he got was Crawfordsville and Waveland, some business down there, and also Attica. And then when my dad took over, he really greatly expanded it, going into like Lafayette, Kokomo, Marion. It got Purdue University. So that really amped it up a lot from just being just really small local to starting to be kind of a regional ice cream company.
Did Glover's ever think about making anything except ice cream?
Not really. I kind of toyed around a little bit with doing maybe frozen pizzas, the reason why, because we were going to all these places that sold them, and we had the freezer trucks, and we could have easily, put them on there. But I really just wanted to just focus on one thing and just do it the best that I could.
Let's go back a little bit, only because I forgot to ask this question, and this is just something I want to know. Say when your grandfather was making and distributing ice cream, how'd they keep it cold?
Yeah, that was in the early days of refrigeration. And so really, ammonia refrigeration, that's what we use today, and that's still really kind of the best for industrial use. But it was kind of rare. Not too many people had it. And so the trucks they had were just really small trucks. They had like 2 doors on the side, the very beginning ones. And by the time we got our last one, we were getting 10 doors on the side, or total, which is the biggest truck you could get for an ice cream truck. Another thing about refrigeration is the people didn't have it at home either. This is back in the 20s, 1925. So people had ice boxes, but that really wouldn't keep ice cream. So on Sundays, it was a really busy day, so he would be working because when people would get done with church, they'd come down and get ice cream. I see some heads nodding out there. They'd get ice cream for take home for the Sunday dinner when the whole family came over.
Was it always your plan to be the boss of an ice cream company? Or did you think at some point your life might have taken a different road?
Well, I kind of did. When I graduated from Purdue, I was in engineering and started with Corning Glass Works and moved out to Corning, New York for 6 years and was doing really good, and I liked it a lot. But my dad said, I'm getting to the point, I'm thinking about retiring. We're going to have to sell the business if you don't want to do it. And I got, this has been going for so long, and it's kind of the American dream to have a business. And so I came and, moved back. And it was a good time. Kathy and I hadn't been married too long, and we just had our first son. So coming back to family was another bonus. So then I became an ice cream man.
And were you all for the engineer becoming the ice cream man?
Yes, because I wanted to come back. I liked coming back here. Same question for me. I would say I started off at Purdue, and I was not thinking I was going to be helping out making ice cream, and I would have been embarrassed maybe if someone would have, considered that my only job is working at a factory. But I loved it. I was an interior designer for a while and did some other jobs in between, worked for some different jobs doing interior design, and came back to the ice cream plant and absolutely just really loved it because of the whole family thing. I was a main filler, so I don't know if there's pictures here, but the big 3-gallon containers is what I generally did all day, filling ice cream and making the containers and getting it ready for production the next day when we weren't making ice cream. But I really enjoyed it, and I loved that our boys came and worked in the summer there, and so it turned out to be such a good, fun time.
Well, which kind of leads me to my last question, and maybe this is an obvious question, and maybe there's not much of an answer, but how difficult was the decision to close Glover's?
Well, it didn't really get closed. We sold it to another person. And that didn't happen until kind of I called the midnight hour. And in fact, I thought it was going to be closed and maybe have to auction things off because I didn't really have too many people that were that interested. But then at the very end, I had somebody that took it over. So he ran it for 4 years, but it really fell on hard times in terms of production, in terms of mostly for maintenance and for just keeping track of everything that needs to be done in a business. And it was in a kind of a shambles area at that point. And that's when these guys came in. There again, I could get it back again after selling it once, and I'm thinking, well, now we're really going to have a hard problem with this. And they decided they were ready to take over and to work it and to bring it back into the glory days. And that's exactly what we did. We all worked together really hard for about 6 months and put it back together, and then they've been working extremely hard getting their accounts back.
Great. Well, thanks. We're not finished with you.
Okay.
Chime in whenever you want, but we're going to move on down to these 3 fellas. So at this point, I want to direct some questions to the new owners of Glover's Ice Cream, Shan Sheridan, Tony Del Real, and David Meek. Congratulations, all of you. Has it been a lifelong dream of yours to own an ice cream company? And if not, Then why are you? That's for any of you.
No. It was not in the cards. And I was, everything has just been, it's happened so fast that, you got to really sit down and think, how'd I get here? And I was doing that today. And I was looking back through some texts, and I was like, how in the heck did we end up here? And I don't know, many of you probably know or have seen, I think it was on, Clinton County Daily News posted an article about a mechanical breakdown. So I think it was actually at 7/12 on January 22nd, and I was looking at it, and what stuck out is they were looking for someone to weld or help the previous owner fix the machinery. And at the end of that post was Andy Meek's name, which was Dave's brother. So I sent him the text and said, hey, check this out. Kind of hard to believe that, in my mind, like this is just, how the Glover name resonates in Clinton County. I was like, how does a national company fall on hard times like this? There's got to be mismanagement or, it's got to be something bigger than what it is. So I just find it hard to believe. So I sent that to Dave, and at the same time, like 5 minutes later, I sent to Shan, because, Shan's all things Clinton County. So, he was already aware, and he was like, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, trying to figure out a solution. And jokingly, he said, well, why don't you just buy it, and then I'll come work, just being funny. And Dave, the next morning, texts back and says, hard to believe, I think we could make a good living at it. And that's all it took, and then just, we're like, well, no. It was a whirlwind, and then the next day, and then the conversation just kind of continued into that end of the month, and then start of February, and then there was a series of meetings, but not to get off track, no, I did not.
Anybody else have anything to add to that?
I just agree with everything Tony's saying, because that's exactly how that happened. And next thing you know, we're sitting here talking to Steve and Kathy, and next thing you know, I'm trying to source parts from across America for equipment that is very old. So luckily, my brother is a fabricator, and he was able to do some surgery on that equipment, and along with Deem Refrigeration out of Indianapolis and or Fishers, Indiana, and we got that up and rolling.
So once you guys rescued Glover's, where'd you come in? When did you come back?
That was part of the deal, though. If I was going to sell it, I had to come back. There was no question about it. So I knew that was going to be a tall order because I knew what it needed to put back together. But I came back, and like I said, these guys worked and their sons worked. We had so many people helping. It took us really about 6 months, plus 5, to get it all back together. And Shan would always be asking, when are we going to make ice cream? When are we making ice cream? I say, we're not quite there yet, Shan. I think we're getting close, but we're not there yet. Next week, when are we making ice cream? So the gun was on to get it going.
Were there any more challenges that you faced in rebooting Glover's? You talked about the mechanical issues and getting all of that straightened out. Any other issues when it came? What was the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome?
For me at least, I'm not speaking for these guys, but this was all new to me. Okay, so once I started digging into what happened here, and Steve's 100% right. I mean, there was a lot of maintenance that had went to the wayside in the last 5 years. So one thing that was important for all of us was to have the best quality product that we could possibly do. And it's not like we were educated on this, so we brought Steve back. Luckily, Tony thought of that to help teach us, everything about food safety, manufacturing, and sales of ice cream, distribution. I mean, all that. So, honestly, without you two, I don't know if we'd be up here.
No way. Shan?
I would totally agree that, we were in a situation, very newbies at this, even though these guys are in business. I'm part of the chamber and involved in economic development, and so I know business activity. But for us to be able to be hands-on and getting involved and to the day-to-day operations, and something different, I think it's not just about making ice cream. It is a lot of mechanical and industrial apparatus that goes on and the behind the scenes. And I remember touring Glover's facility years ago, and Steve showing me how he takes apart the machine. And in fact, I think I walked in one day and he showed me he had taken it apart, and he was kind of giving me the maintenance tour back in a January day. And I was amazed about how much went into the maintenance side of these old compressors, but they were old but yet very functional and kept working. So the mechanical part was one part, but we also had freezers full of ice cream that was made and produced in that last days that we did not want to see go bad. We were trying to figure out, we've purchased this now, and now we also have to clear out freezers, and yet we wanted to make sure that we had good product because we didn't want to shortchange anyone. So it was that constant back and forth of what is good for the business, but yet at the end of the day, what is the best for the business.
How many people are working part-time, full-time, helping Glover's right now?
I would have to say on like a production day, we've got 12 working when we're doing those little cups. When we're doing the grocery store size and 3-gallon container, there's about 6. There's numerous other things going on behind the scenes with our wives, our families, and social media. Our general manager we just hired, Lori's here tonight. So we're growing. Today we had not all of our trucks, but all of our trucks that are licensed and ready to go on the road today, so which was a great feeling.
And yesterday was a record-breaking day.
Absolutely.
Great. How many trucks do you have?
We've got a total, is it 7, I think? But we have 3 good trucks that are on the road. So we've got all.
We have a lot of
good
trucks,
that are on
but
the
we
road.
just need to know how many are on the road.
That's right.
Or
Yeah.
should say roadworthy.
Yeah.
That might be the better way of putting it.
No.
And those ones that aren't running, that was part of the maintenance that the previous owner didn't do anything of. So a lot of them were in serious bad shape.
But we've turned those around, even some of those older ones, and now we're starting to gradually get newer, used trucks and organically grow that business, and it's going great.
And we drive them around just like Foster Glover does on a regular basis. So
Those, the old trucks that, I remember from being a kid seeing going around town, those were a great design and color of truck. I wonder how they came up with that. Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure on the color for sure, but those trucks are they've got cold plates in them, which are different. A lot of trucks they're called reefer trucks, and they just blow cold air in. But the cold plates, you get them cold, you charge them up all night long. They can go out for 2 days, especially if it's 90 degrees, maybe not, but at least a day. And they stay cold with these plates. So it's really nice if you go out and you have a breakdown or anything happens, you're not out of luck. With a reefer truck, as soon as it shuts off, it's going up in temperature. So they're designed just for ice cream, those big ones with the plates.
So right now, how far is Glover's distributing? Is it purely a Clinton County business at this time? Or what are the plans for the near future?
Well, I can tell you one thing because I happen to have, it's called Life 360 on my phone to see where my kids are. And I looked at it today and I was like, what the heck? Well, Luke, my oldest, which is 22 or 21, was all the way up by Lake Michigan. And I thought, well, that's pretty neat. So we were delivering today Valparaiso, Chesterton, Michigan City, LaPorte High School, so numerous places. We're all over the place.
Well, that's great.
Yeah,
man.
Muncie
I had no
to the
idea.
east side of the state, to the west side. I would say we haven't restocked Covington Beef House in a while, but they've taken ice cream, and we've got some other connections over there in Lafayette. We're adding stuff. We're adding stuff all the time, all over the place.
How many flavors of ice cream are you producing right now?
Right now, we got 20 different flavors that we produce in the 3-gallon containers. And then in the grocery store size, there's 14 different flavors that we produce in that. Actually, I think it's 15 now. And in the 8-ounce container, which is what we've kind of turned our focus towards, we produce 9 different flavors in that right now.
What's your favorite?
You know, I'd have to they're all my favorite. That's the problem.
No,
Like,
but what's
probably-
your real favorite?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, the peppermint is just, I just love the peppermint, but I eat them all.
I should point out, I know a lot of you are disappointed that you can't see me as well as normal. But this little pyramid here, this is Glover's from what year?
That would be from the very beginning, not that card, but that size, 1925 to 2020.
Okay. And then moving to this.
That would have been the owner that I sold to the first time. He came up with that carton. That's a 48 ounce. So the one below is actually a half gallon, a true half gallon, which is 64.
Okay.
The second one's a 48 ounce, which most people, I would say 90% of people don't know that that's not a half gallon. They think it's a half gallon. But when you see it next to it, you see how much smaller it is.
And then one of the new guys wants to talk about this.
That's just the container that we came up with, and we all agreed we absolutely love it. It's got Foster on the back. It's got Shan's little saying there with the miles and spots, or miles of
Miles of smiles.
yeah. So we love that, and the pink and the white, it just flows with our little cups, and that's kind of how, and you see the sign here. So, and that picture there kind of gives you an idea of the evolution of the containers. For the smaller ones, those are the grocery store size. The 3-gallon containers are still exactly how you'd normally see them. But that's how that all shook out. So we're getting really good feedback on the new design, which was the old design. We just added the EST 1925, and then the pink and the white and the black.
Yeah, I wonder who came up with that original Glover's thing. Was that just a sign painter or somebody? Because it's a great logo.
Yeah, my grandfather came up with that. I don't know who actually drew it the first time, but Jim Sneathen, you guys, somebody, huh? No, Joe Sneathen, the sign painter. He used to come down and hand paint our trucks with the Glovers. He had a kind of a stencil that he used to kind of rough it in, but it was all hand painted. And I can't say for sure if he came up with it originally or not, but we use that for everything. Mm-hmm. And they're still kind of using pretty much the same thing.
This looks like it has something good in it. It's empty. They didn't give me any. But that container, it's a great ice cream container, I think. You know?
Thank you. We appreciate it. We spent a lot of time on that.
So, speaking of ice cream, who gets to taste the ice cream, and is that a real job?
We all taste the ice cream. I mean, when we make it, we all usually are eating it.
But I mean, there's not a Steve Glover with a microscope or something breaking it down to make sure it's the exact, that nobody does that?
We eat it at the plant to make sure it tastes like that. So we follow his rules, and we go by those directions, and we want to make sure that product stays like that.
Going back to what Steve said earlier about the original formula, the original formula was really actually on a clipboard hanging in the back, and I mean, that's been there for decades, and that is the same formula that we brought back, that when Steve came back with us, Steve and Kathy came back with us, that was our desire to make sure that we went back to those original recipes and original formulas, and those were all, and some of them handwritten, some of them typed but put on a sheet, and so those formulas were test tasted and have stood the test of time through those original formulas back even in Foster's day. So we felt like they were pretty comfortable if we continued those same formulas.
Is there a perfect temperature to taste ice cream? Because I've had ice cream that was frozen solid and it was kind of hard to eat. But is there a perfect temperature, or am I just?
Yeah, ice cream is very sensitive to temperature. So we hold them for just normal freezing about 20 below, sometimes 15 up back there, and it's rock hard. I mean, you can't cut it or anything. To sell it in the store, they take it up to about 0, and it stays really good that way too, but it's still too hard to eat. It's really about best to eat. Before you get there, the best time to scoop it is about 7 degrees. So it goes up a little bit more, you get a nice scoop, and then it goes up a few more than that. About 10 degrees, 8 to 10 degrees is perfect for eating. It's not melting, but it's soft enough that you can get it. And also the flavor comes out more as the temperature rises. In fact, ice cream, when you make it, if you taste it right when it's being made, before it's frozen, it doesn't taste as strong. But after you freeze it, the flavoring just kind of permeates in the ice cream and it becomes stronger. So when you make it for the first time, you have to kind of account for that you don't want it like super strong, because after it freezes, it's even going to be stronger.
It's like gumbo. You got to let it just simmer. Except we're freezing it. So.
They're not making gumbo ice cream.
Oh, we may.
So, you guys, what did you learn about ice cream that you didn't know before?
Well, probably for me, just what Steve was sharing, some of the science behind ice cream and the temperature, especially because I asked him, I said, why is it that I get some ice cream and there's crystallization and it gets frosty and normally it comes back from moisture and condensation, but really the temperature. And once you do realize that our ice cream, it's a blast freezer, so as soon as it is made, it comes out in a soft serve, and as soon as it's made, it's put into the blast freezer. We did, 1,260 gallons yesterday, something like that, or 1,160 gallons, and you put that in the blast freezer at 20 below, in about a 48-hour period that gets nice and hard, but it's those flavors that get locked in as well. And so that's why I do believe, I love soft ice cream, soft serve ice cream, and Lions Club does a good job. They've got some great soft serve ice cream, but another Clinton County plug, but make sure the Lions Club heard that, okay? So from Rossville, but the hard ice cream is, and I joke about gumbo, but when you let something marinate and just kind of sit there and those flavors come together, it does make a huge difference. And I've learned that I like it, you can taste it out of the machine, but there is nothing like letting it freeze hard for 48 hours or so and then coming back and then dipping it at about that 5 degree temperature. It is so creamy and you can just catch every flavor.
And I'm going to add a little bit on the inclusions too, because that's a big factor, and I think it's a game changer with the way that Glover's has done ice cream, is using top shelf ingredients when it comes to the inclusions. The strawberries, the cherries, the pecans. We didn't change any of that. So that is pretty crucial. And the biggest thing that I learned is the ratio of air in the mix, and how much it's supposed to weigh. When we randomly every 10 units we'll put one out and weigh it to make sure that you have a good mix of air and product and the ratios, and that goes for the inclusions as well. Nobody wants to buy chocolate chip or butter pecan and have all the pecans sitting out the bottom. That's a big no-no. So that was one of the biggest things. Like, I always wondered, how do they do that? How do you capture the inclusions? And it all has to do with, the freezing and how everything's produced, getting it into the blast freezer right away so that, everything kind of locks in flavor. And air is the biggest thing. If you got a carton or you open up a carton at home and you're eating it and you're enjoying it the first time around, you put it back in the refrigerator. The next time you eat it, you get crystallization. Well, a lot of that is because the lid's not properly set on it, or the defrost cycle in your freezers will play with it. And those are all things that we've learned through the process.
I imagine now that you're working really hard just to provide the product that you have to where it goes, but do you have any plans in the near or the distant future to expand your production or products in any way?
We were actually talking about that today, just the proximity of the library here, how close it is to Glover's. So we thought you have plenty of space here that we could probably utilize and use to make some more freezer space. So thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
all for that, as long as I get a key to the freezer.
Yeah, no, we have that we've talked about that, you know, but like right now we're gearing this back up. We're busy. We're staying focused on what we're doing right now. But yes, we have talked about we're going to need freezer space. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We're selling a lot more of these little cups, and those 8-ounce cups require a lot more space than a 3-gallon container. So it's happening sooner than later.
Has the community been supportive of your efforts to this point?
I'll answer to it, and then I'll let Shan kind of pitch or add. But I think that the community's been tremendous. When we came out, what was it? Our first kind of showing was the Hot Dog Festival 2024, and that event really just lit the fire. Be like, the community wants this, they need it, we need it. It's a staple, and spending the summer with the Glovers was an amazing summer. Our kids were all here. Steve got to know them, boss them around, yell at them a little bit, which they needed. And it was great. It's family business. I grew up in a family business, so I understand it. And sometimes it's better to have someone else kind of engage the process and show it. And Steve did a great job of engaging our kids and figure, and they figure it out. This is the way it's done. This is the way you got to do it. So, I think the community's been a tremendous blessing to us, and continues to be a source of our motivation. We want to hear from everybody. And it's not to say that, when we talk about quality, that, whether it's crystallization, that's stuff that we didn't know that we're addressing. Sometimes it's like, when you said something about distribution and trying to, expand our footprint, we are in the big 8 of IU health care facilities and their cafeterias. So that's huge. That's big for Glovers. And with that comes a responsibility of, teaching quality control. Those freezer doors, if they're left open, guess what? That'll allow air to get in. And if there's any kind of I wouldn't say a tear, but if there's any kind of you overfill a cup, well, you don't know you overfill it until it freezes, and then the cup comes up. So there might be a little crystallization on the edge. So, and those are things that we are learning and we're addressing. And obviously, we always want to hear the input from the community so that we can be better.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I would agree with Tony that the community has been great as a, part of the Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development. It does my heart good to see that a business was saved, the business that a lot of people grew up with. We've heard stories talking about the community input, story after story of, Glover's Sunday afternoon after church, like Steve was saying, or going to some picnic and having Glover's. It's really a blessing to hear those stories and to be able to continue that tradition. Of course, social media has changed everything, so someone can give you an instant, thumbs up or thumbs down pretty quick. So it makes it a little different than in Foster's day, where maybe somebody just threw out the ice cream sandwich because it wasn't any good or whatever. But today it's which that never happened because they were always good. Foster always made good ice cream sandwiches. But the thing that today, if someone's, they don't like something, it can be, they can be broadcast pretty quickly. So we love to have that input and people being able to come back and share, talk to us. They get to talk to us actually on the street and say, hey, I tried the mint chip and it was good. It was really good. It was about as good as it when Glover's made it. And I said, well, we're getting there. We're trying to get there with Steve and Kathy, but we're so grateful to their support and their partnership and the community. What Glover's means to the community, and I think the community says, we want to support this, we don't want to lose it, and we want to make sure that it continues for another 100 years.
I'd like to add to that what Tony was saying, and Shan too, is one thing also that we did is when Tony got Steve to come back, which was a home run. Like I said, it couldn't have done it without you guys. But one thing that we did was we changed some piping. We changed a lot of gaskets. We did a lot of cleaning. We redid plumbing. We redid electrical. We redid floors. There was a lot of money and time spent on upgrades to make a better quality product. And I mean, without you guys, we wouldn't even be up here. So your guys' support is what keeps us in business. So we appreciate everything.
I kind of would have thought Steve and Kathy might have deserved a shirt. Maybe you guys could throw them one sometime. The guys brought a video, very short video, and then after that we're going to open it up to some questions.
And these were some early shots that I took probably in the mid-'70s. And this is kind of the whole family working. My dad's working, filling the ice cream. My aunt's doing packaging. My sister's stamping. And my mom's helping prepare the cartons to be filled. And that's me making 3-gallon containers. We used to have to wear the paper hats. I look back at some of the pictures, especially my dad and maybe when I was younger, to think how that was at that point, where I was just going down there and just kind of filling in and doing what I needed to do, never thinking really that someday I'd be running it my whole life until I retired. And then seeing some of the pictures of my mom and my sister and my brother, you know, it just brings back a lot of memories. It's hard to believe that whole life has gone by really looking at those pictures.
Okay, that was great. That was really neat. At this time, we're going to open up for questions from you people out there in the audience. Audience, if you have a question, please raise your hand so that Mindy may bring you a microphone. We need you to speak into the microphone so we can hear your question on YouTube Live and on our website. So just raise it. And Mindy, by the way, is a recent graduate of the Microphone Delivery School of Technology. So you can trust her to swiftly and safely bring you. Thank you, Mindy. Thank you. Okay, any questions out here? The new star of Hoosier Storytellers, Andy Slifer.
I have 2 questions. First of all, how many of the new little freezers? Those are really neat. They're everywhere you go and around town. But have you got them even out of town? A lot of places. Do you know how many you've got?
I would actually like to invite Lori to come up here and tell us.
Lori's our general manager.
She's our GM.
And she does a great, give her a big round of applause.
She
does a
deserves
great job.
all the
So we have
praise.
we have a great staff.
Lori was very helpful with us at the barn this summer, getting ice cream.
Lori has been the one been overseeing a lot of everything, all the day-to-day operations, and she knows the numbers better than we do. But I'll just also, before Lori, I would just simply say to our whole staff, our whole team, you know, we have such a great staff. Dan Trent, Dan's the man. If it wasn't for Dan, I don't know where we would be. Dan is our right hand. He was Steve's right hand for a long time, and Dan has just been awesome to work. We were so glad that we were able to be able to keep Dan. But when Lori came, it was like a godsend because she has she has flipped the switch for us. So Lori, you can answer all the hard questions. So have a good night. So
wasn't expecting this. Thanks, Tony. To answer your question of how many freezers, I have no idea. I have a spreadsheet for that.
Oh.
No, I'd honestly probably say between the old freezers that we have, the dipping ones, the ones that are out in schools, I mean, just alone today, I think we dropped off 9 freezers. you know, in just one day of getting installed. So, I mean, we are constantly, I mean, I can't keep up with ordering them, honest. So, but I'd say probably about 60 or 70 of those freezers are out. And thank you, Andy, for being one of those. So we are open, our store is from 12 to 5, Monday through Friday. But, you know, if I'm there and then somebody walks in at 9 o'clock, you can buy ice cream, and I have had that happen. So we are always selling ice cream. If somebody's there, we'll sell it to you. But a lot of times in the morning, we're running deliveries and doing installs and, you know, doing all the business stuff. But Monday through Friday, 12 to 5, and shout out Kylie, who's always there with me at the office. She's amazing.
Thank you.
Got some of our
I
folks
got
back
Kylie.
there. Kylie's
Kylie,
back
got
there.
Kate.
Caleb's back there.
Yeah,
I'm
Caleb.
starting to see
There's
some
family
of them.
right there.
Oh,
That's-
yeah, there's some family.
Any other questions from
Well,
anyone?
I want to say one more thing on the cabinets. It was kind of interesting because when I had like hundreds of cabinets out there, and they were all, most of them older ones, and they would break down. They were bigger commercial kind, and we'd bring them back and fix them and put them out. They just kept getting recycled forever, and I had parts and parts all over. When these guys took over, they go, "We're not going to do cabinets. Just throw all those parts away." So I did. But their cabinets are a little bit different. They're newer.
They're a
and
lot lighter.
a lot lighter.
My
a
back
lot lighter.
has made some sounds lifting up those old freezers. Not good ones. Yeah, I think actually when I started, Tony was like, "Hey, we need to get this freezer situation under control." I'm like, "I'll make a
We're not
spreadsheet,
gonna
buddy."
do freezers.
Yeah.
You know, I think it started with Andy from the beginning, and now I've lost total control of this. Stacy.
I got two questions also. So in the interim between Glover, Steve, and you guys, the guy that had it, did he try to change the recipe at all? Or was he sticking to your original recipe?
He was supposed to be sticking to the recipe, but I wasn't there to know, so I don't know. I assumed he did, but I did have other people say that the quality was different, so I'm not going to really know on that.
And then you were talking about, you know, the flavors permeating with them being frozen. Is that 48 hours typical, or do you let them freeze longer than that?
That's pretty typical. Usually they can freeze overnight and be ready to go, but 48 is pretty normal. You know, speaking on that, the flavoring, when my dad used to make peppermint ice cream, he would just put peppermint pieces in there, no flavoring at all. So if you first ate it when it came out of the machine, it just tastes like no ice cream flavor. It just was plain, and you had crunchy peppermint. But after it froze, there was enough of that peppermint, like I say, would permeate and go out. I started putting a little background flavoring too, just to give it a little more boost. But that just kind of shows you how that works with the flavoring.
Right over here. Mindy, swiftly flying through the aisles.
I just have a question. Do you use sugar, or do you use corn syrup in the recipe?
Mostly corn syrup.
Right down here.
I just kind of want to add to that too. We get a lot of questions. Are we gluten-free or are we dairy-free? These recipes have been around for 100 years. It's all the good stuff.
Speaking of the flavors, I'm curious, are you making all the original flavors, and do you do holiday flavors? Because I think there were some flavors that were made just on the holidays.
We have pumpkin right now. We have cinnamon. We have peppermint candy. I mean, we kind of had those all year round. I mean, especially peppermint. I mean, that sells in the summer.
Because you
still.
know I eat it all the time, so Dave and I eat the peppermint, so we have to make it all the time. So, but that is a holiday flavor. But Lori,
Right here, Mindy.
I'm just curious, you said that Foster started out with sandwiches, ice cream sandwiches. When did that start to phase out? I'm sure that's a whole different production area and probably more complicated, but when did that start to phase out?
That's true. At the original, they made their own novelties. So they had sandwiches, drumsticks, not a dilly bar, they call it a Glover bar, and a couple other things. And it was all done by hand, and it was very tedious. This was before my time, but I even have some of the racks that they would do to make these things. They'd have to, you know, like scoop it and put the ice cream in there and then refreeze that and bring it out and dip it in chocolate and put it back. It might be 3 or 4 different operations. So with the volume that we started doing, we started to have to buy ice cream bars. And people that do that, they just do that. That's all they do is bars. So they're set up to really do it fast. But one of the like the earlier things too, Foster used to do, to make strawberry ice cream. He would go home and, well, not maybe do it there too, but get real fresh strawberries and stem them and cut them in half. And when he made butter pecan on the stove at home, he would roast the pecans. We obviously went way past that. You know, we could never keep up with that. But that's kind of how it started. You know, very small. Every ingredient was pretty much handmade.
Any other questions for the people from Glover's?
Mike, if you may, I'd like to I have a question for the audience. I would just like to know, from our perspective, you know, what are some things that you would like to see as a community here? I mean, Glover's started in Frankfort, and good Lord willing, it'll never end. It'll just keep going here in Frankfort, in Clinton County. But, you know, is it novelties? Is it something, you know, what is it something that you're looking for? Miss Andy?
Yeah, I'm excited that you've got it, Almond Joy in the grocery size now. I'm waiting for
it's
the
yummy.
cups.
You can get it in the grocery, that's right. That's been a lot of people been asking about Almond Joy, and that was pretty much a 3-gallon for a long.
That was probably the number one flavor people had asked me to make for the grocery stores, the Almond Joy. But we just made it in a 3-gallon. For one reason, there wasn't a carton available when I was doing it to make it. But now they've got a carton they can actually kind of make different flavors on it, so it works pretty good.
And I would just add, you mentioned cartons, and Lori certainly understands this dilemma. But when someone says, hey, why don't you make more of this, or why don't you do this, it's not just about the flavor of the ice cream or making the ice cream. That's the easy part. The tough part is the ingredient label, the labeling, and, you know, putting all of the ingredients that are supposed to be. We are bound by law to put what is in all the contents of in that ice cream on that container. So we have to make sure that we're abiding by those standards. That's not a standard, it's actually the law. So we have high standards, though, as far as being ethical and wanting to make sure that we're not cutting corners. Another blessing that we have is that we have another local company here called High Tech Label that is that we get a lot of our labeling from and have done a great job, and that we partner with. In fact, a lot of our boxes that we use come just up the road from Lafayette. We have really worked and tried to source almost everything that goes in that ice cream, or even in the container, locally, regionally, or if nothing else, Indiana. Because when it says Indiana grown, we mean it. So.
I just want to add to that too. You know, I think with me coming on board and, you know, things happening, whether it be production or deliveries or stuff, you know, the community has been pretty amazing, and I've been able to see that. I'm not used to being from a small town, and these guys know people, they have connections, and, you know, everybody is willing to help Glover's and these guys, and so that's really cool to see the community come together and not just support, but and buy the ice cream. It's all the other pieces to it that take it to get up and go.
We have a question over here. Mindy. Mindy's not sprinting anymore. She's just given up.
What is the history of the Purdue ice cream?
The history of Purdue ice cream. That's kind of an interesting question. I like that because they came to us a while back, and they wanted us to make their original ice cream. It was called Pappy's Ice Cream at the time, and they had their own formula and everything, so they gave it to us, and so we started making it. I had a mixed company make it exactly the way they made it, and then we froze it. But in the interim there, they went out of the business of selling ice cream there on campus and to the community. So they came to us and said, we have an ice cream freezer you guys want. And we were just in the process of upgrading a bigger one. In fact, that's in that picture there, the bigger one. So in actuality, we were making their ice cream with their formula and on their machine too. So it was exactly the same way they made it.
Which is still the same machine we're making ice cream on today, by the way. And Lori had a little surprise and brought us some of that
That's why I'm
Purdue
wearing the
ice.
Peak apron. That is our look. So don't just walk around wearing an apron every day. But we do have a cabinet out there with the One Giant Scoop, which is a 12% butterfat vanilla, which is a Purdue flavor. And then we also have the Boiler Chip, which is a caramel chocolate chip for everybody in attendance. Pretty yummy. Wow. And me being a boiler girl, I love it.
Yes, sir, right down here, Mindy.
Shan's question. I was one of those that my dad, after church on Sunday morning back in the early 40s, and we'd get a quart because there'd damn any way to freeze it. And he gradually then, later years after had a family, we got a gallon, and we come in, and it seems like every couple of weeks we'd have a gallon. And then when they went out of business, and I think that was where I tried 2 or 3 different brands, and none of it just was different. I don't know what, but I think the quality, the continued quality that you produce is what's important to the community.
Sorry. Right here.
Hello. I don't have a question, just a comment. I want to thank you guys for doing all these things that you have done to keep this going. It's just amazing. A lot could be said about that. We could have another presentation about that, but kudos to you guys, all of you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Okay, it looks like that's about it then. I'd like to thank Steve and Kathy Glover for visiting with us today, as well as 3 of the 5 new owners of Glover's Ice Cream, Tony Del Rio, Shan Sheridan, and David Meek. Thanks also to my fellow storytellers, Mindy back there and Daniel up in the booth. We'll be back on October 16th with another look at Frankfort history featuring the James Osler photographs of Frankfort High School's big broadcast from 1959 to 1970. Hoosier Storytellers is a presentation of the Frankfort Community Public Library. Go get your ice cream.
The candlelights are gleaming on the